let's review here in this video 10 a few of the principles that we have touched on to this point in our series. One of them is the interesting pattern of how children that are acting out overtly aggressive or passively aggressive have a way to trample mom's compassion, trample her compassion over and over again till finally she reacts verbally or in action in a way she would not normally. Then moms tend to feel guilty very easily. That's an interesting point. It is the one way moms and wives tend to have a kind of weakness, and it is something valuable to understand that. Then when the mom reacts in anger, frustration, disappointment, bewilderment, then she feels guilty, and that guilt takes her power away, takes her stamina away. Then she feels further guilty for not having more to give. And that when a child is acting out aggressively, passive-aggressively over and over again, not to be reasoned with, and if you can reason with your child and it succeed, please do that. But if time and time again this does not succeed, he or she is being reinforced in a dysfunctional, toxic, maybe even sinful way from a society that supports that child as victim, making it appear that it is mom and dad's fault. And then that it is through the mom, essentially taking her down emotionally, this sense of entitlement and selfish pride that is called in much of our society self-esteem, but it's a false definition of true self-esteem. But the child knowing it or not knowing it, taking mom down emotionally, that's how to get at dad, get at father. Because of another principle, when dad enters the room, conscience has entered the room. That is a threat to the child's power over his or her mother. Now there are exceptions. In the lower percentage of families, a low percentage, those roles are reversed, where it's the mother that is the one that stands in structure and boldly accounts the kid behavior, and it may be the father that is more talkative, more verbal, and then easy to be made to feel guilty. But in most homes, it is the father who, when he enters the room, conscience has entered the room by his mere presence. And it is the mom that gives from her first breath in the morning to her last breath at night. And then is easy to be made to feel guilty when that giving falters by a presence of doubt when she's been provoked to be angry. And in this culture of climate, where entitlement, selfish pride, and the right to hold anger, and that a kid's growing in self-esteem will be based upon their having a say, that essentially it is on the child's terms, and if there's some way to reason with the child and get through, then that will build that child's self-worth and prepare the son or daughter for life. But what about this principle, and I'm going to add it now if I haven't said it, that the child has experienced a kind of euphoria that is drug-like, that sweeps over your son or daughter's body for actually having said to you things that you never would have said to your parent. It's a kind of a ego stroke. That's something that we have said earlier in this series. And what about if we have gotten to the point in our society where there are so many children that are willing to trade off your love to keep the power they have over you? thus pride, selfish pride, and anger become a root, a foundation to your child's personality. Something has entered into your home contrary to what your value system is, the love and the attempt to cherish that you have in your home, the culture of your home. Something has entered and has fed a root of bitterness, a sense of entitlement, and the right of that child to hold judgment over you that then contaminates your child's personality, turning what is sensitive into insensitivity. And like what I've said, who is able to be more insensitive than the person who has the gift of sensitivity, of which selfish pride and anger has now contaminated it, turning it into its opposite form. Now I want to tell you a story and illustration how a child, even through adolescence, lives under the umbrella, both emotional and spiritual protection of the father and mother. And that there are forces, psychological, spiritual, that cannot penetrate that umbrella. And that child lives their childhood in an innocent, beautiful way, and then grows to a point where now they are prepared to step out into life. But what if the child has been influenced by our society to shoot holes in that umbrella, to stand in judgment and speak angrily towards father and mother? This makes holes in the umbrella, and then some of that spiritual and emotional, psychological, sociological protection is not in its proper strength. And then there are forces that come through that umbrella of the father and mother's loving authority, and then it affects the child. Then what if your son or daughter steps out from under the umbrella and feels the effect of the world, the very same world that you, mom, and you, dad, and I have to get up and greet every morning? It's a world that is a little crazy, if I may add. But now your son or daughter, during their childhood, are subject to forces in this world that they are not ready to deal with. Then this brings states of anger in your child, depression, and anxiety. What we have occur in our society now, and many of its professional schools, psychological pastors, priests, even bring it into their sermons and homilies, making it look like it's your fault that your child is experiencing depression and anxiety, failing to account that they have contributed to helping your child feel entitled, to shoot holes in your umbrella, as I said, of loving parental authority, making them subject to forces, burdens that they're not ready for. Then the child steps out from under the umbrella amidst their childhood, making judgment of you, and further supported by our society. Then having a deeper base of depression, cutting themselves, superficial cutting on the arms, threatening suicide, criticizing you further, having depression, stepping out in the night to drink in order to mood alter and deal with these feelings of anxiety and depression that were actually supported against you and your home in the first place from a society that does not have the morals and the values and belief system you have. We are now going to go back to a small portion of Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean. and learn some basic principle from that. Watch this, please.
You know what kind of drunken brawls those parties turn into. It's no place for kids.
A minute ago, you said you didn't care if he drinks.
He said a little drink.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again! This is all going too fast for me,
You better give
son.
me something. You better give me something fast.
Jimmy, you're very young. A foolish decision now could wreck your whole life. In 10 years, you'll never know this even happened.
Dad, answer her.
Stand up!
You want to kill your own father! Gary!
Notice what I was saying. James Dean was perfect for this part because how he acted in this movie is how he had been living his life for many years. His mother did enable him. He was spoiled, especially for that day and age. Then she died, I believe, when he was age 13. Then he had a peace temperament father, like I said, who had gone to World War II as a soldier, came back, but remained a peace temperament man, which James Dean, being very active and controlled temperament in an angry, prideful way, would rob his father of the presence of a peaceful home, hold over Dad's head, getting even with him for whatever he didn't get, and by that way, peace temperament father was taken advantage of. And then in this clip, notice how James Dean represents very well his angry sense of confusion when father and mother disagree. Now, fathers and mothers can disagree and even do so with frustration. But when young James Dean holds angrily the right to make judgment, notice the burden that this places on his mind. And then finally, when they're on these stairs, as he's trampling every reasonable show of compassion by his mother, then finally, that is how he's going at his father till finally he turns on the stairs, takes his father, throws him down and starts choking him, and mother, out of guilt and feelings of compassion, try to save father. Notice my point, and we're going to finish with this in this short video. The rising in judgment of a child, of an adolescent, based upon anger and selfish pride, puts a burden on that child. Fundamentally, we make a mistake when we base our parenting on the right of the child to have a final say on how that is to be done. Let's see you in other videos. Let's build this upon principle upon principle.